Hey Vanguard, what's up? My name is Chloe. I'm a junior. I'm a music education major. I'm also the media chaplain with SFD, and I'm originally from Houston, Texas. Just some fun facts about me. And this is my story. When I was praying on what to do for this, a lot of ideas came to mind, but the one I've kind of landed on, especially with the recent fires, is the story about Hurricane Harvey and just how the Lord worked through that and helped to kind of restore my family. So yeah, we're gonna kind of dive into that. So I grew up in a Christian household. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm the youngest of four and the only girl, so all you with brothers out there, totally feel your pain. And I lived in the same house ever since I was little. It had a big backyard with a nice pool, and it went into the woods. Everything's very green back home. And when I finished my sophomore year of high school, I went and worked at a summer camp, and I spent my whole summer there. It was incredible. My life was changed, and I came back. It's a few months before my 17th birthday, and I was home for 2 weeks, and the Hurricane Harvey became a thing. And I don't know how much y'all know about Hurricane Harvey. I do know that the news was pretty widespread about it, but it's one of the biggest storms that's ever hit really anywhere. And it was it wasn't predicted well at all. There was not a lot of warning given out about it. It dropped 60 inches of rain. That's 5 feet of water coming from the sky in the matter of days. But I live right on a creek, and it's beautiful when it's in its banks. But, however, when there's that much rain, it kind of takes over your house real quick. So it's the end of August, and we know it's coming, but we don't know how bad it's going to be. And the last time my house had flooded was 2001, so it'd been a while. And I went to bed. I didn't want to, but my dad was like, you should sleep. You should try and sleep. And a few hours later, it's 1 a.m. And no, it was midnight. My dad wakes me up and he says, we gotta go. The water's to the tree. That meant we had about 50 yards to work with. And I kind of turned into drill sergeant daughter. And we were just throwing things upstairs, just putting things as high as we could get them. I was running in and out the door. The water's here, the water's here, the water's here. And eventually it hit our house. Our power went out, and we said, okay, we gotta go. I remember I had a change of clothes, my phone charger, and my glasses. And I had to carry my little dog above my head and wade through chest-deep water to get to my car that was at the higher end of the street. And we drove about a mile away to a neighborhood where some friends were staying that doesn't really flood as often. And it took us 30 minutes to get there because the water was coming over my hood, and I drive an SUV, if that tells you anything. It was really scary. I'm 16, I've barely been home, and I'm watching my childhood home just be engulfed by water. And I didn't know when we would come back. My dad and I ended up getting a ride on a boat through our neighborhood, saw the water line. We actually rescued my hamster too, but that's a whole other story. And we stayed at our friend's house for about a week. The water was too high for us to get to our house, and we would check it every day. And I know you guys know what it's like to see smoke in the air, to smell smoke in the air. and for that just gray hue kind of fog. And rain kind of does the same thing, without the smell, of course. But it was gray, and there was no sunshine for about a week and a half, and it was dreary and weird and not normal. And we finally make it back to my house. There's still water in the road, but it's receded enough that we can walk through it safely. And we go in, and there is a catfish in my living room. Just to give you an idea, we released it in the street, and it swam away. And things that were in the living room were in the guest room in the back of the house, and all of this stuff was moved around. The water had just ripped a current. I had about 5 feet of water in my house, and it was sobering. It was shocking. We grabbed what we could. We salvaged what we could. But there's this rule that when your house floods 3 times, you're supposed to not be able to rebuild again. And that was the 3rd time for my house, because originally it had been built in about the 70s. And I was like, wow, I'm not going to get to go home to this place again. Like, I'm almost 17. This is all I've known, is this spot. And we struggled. We really did. We had to get a rent house. I'm not from a wealthy family, but we do okay. And money was never an issue, and all of a sudden money was an issue. And we were in a tiny rent house with bland walls and no space, and everything was about the flood. You couldn't get away from it, because you'd drive around the streets and see debris piled up on the road. You would hear from your friends who had to move, or you would hear about the football team that ditched practice just to go help someone clear out their house. And my house was one of those. I'm used to being a server. I don't like being served. It's not I don't like being served, but I'm not good at receiving it. And people showed up. They showed up day in and day out with each decision and step. And one of the hardest decisions was when my parents decided to bulldoze our house and decide we would rebuild in the same spot. And for me, I wanted out. I felt like we were tying ourselves to something that was no longer. And I was there. It was October 23rd, 2017, when my house crumbled. But I wish I had it to show y'all. There's a picture after the bulldozer hits its first hole. You see our 2nd story window, and the window frame created a cross. My dad was the one who noticed it. And I remember sitting with him, just crying in the back of his truck, watching the walls of my childhood just come down in front of me. And that was a whole other cleaning process, clearing the slab, getting everything ready. And all of a sudden, there's nothing left except concrete. Now, why do I share this whole thing? I know a lot of you don't know rain like I probably do, but I know you know fire, or at least you're familiar with it. And I'm sorry for that, because fire is a whole different kind of scary, and it's a whole different ball game. But some of you may understand losing your childhood home, or some of you understand your friend that lost a childhood home while yours was untouched. Some of you understand that it hasn't happened to you. You've seen it from afar, but it hasn't been you. And it's so easy to wonder, why God? Why me? Why my friend? Why not me? Why can't you just stop this? Why did you let this happen? it's so easy to question that. It's so easy to look at these natural disasters and let them take away from the beauty of God's creation. And it's hard. It's hard. I remember looking at that slab thinking, that's where my bathroom was. That's where my bedroom was. But it was more than that. It wasn't about the bathroom or the bedroom. It was about, that's where I hid playing hide and seek. That's where my brothers and I actually got along for once. That's where my friend and I played Polly Pockets. It was about the memories, not the walls. And I watched as a house was built on this slab, a new beginning. It was from October, we demoed and had nothing, and by the end of April, early May, we were moving into a new home. And in each pillar that holds my house, there are Bible verses written into the concrete. And there are Bible verses written on the drywall that is underneath the sheetrock in my home. And I just remember watching this process bring my family together and bring out a faith that I hadn't seen in my family before. A reliance on the Lord that was unparalleled and unmatched. And to this day, I wonder why it happened. But I also know that my story has a lot of redemption in it, that there's a lot of grace, and that the Lord really orchestrated it. Not that he caused the flood or that I blame him for not stopping it, but that I got to see him as he pulled my community together. I got to see him as we worshiped. I got to see him as people prayed over my new home, as people walked alongside my parents and me in ways we never had before. And I pray that you can see the same in your life, that where it feels like things are flooding or things are crumbling, that when all you see is an empty slab with nothing but hurt on it, that you're able to also see the new beginnings that are coming. That you're able to say, okay, God, I give this to you. Obviously, it's not the same. It's not going to be what it once was, but God, with you, it can be better. With you, it can be stronger. Because God, you are our cornerstone. You are our foundation. And I pray that when he builds that new house for you, that when he writes in the pillars of your heart, that you're able to recognize and able to see that it's not just something new. It's not just something to ooh and ah at and say, wow, what a miracle. It is a miracle. But I pray that you're able to see the deeper purpose, that there's so much coming out of your pain. There's something so strong coming out of it. My house back home, it looks like a beach house in the middle of the woods. It's a little bit weird. And I remember my mom was picking the color. She said, Chloe, look, I picked a color and she's got this bright yellow. And I was like, are you sure? Are you sure that's what you want to do? She said, yes. And I said, how do you know? And she said, because it's beacon yellow. And a beacon means that it's seen. And if we can be a light of hope for everybody who even drives past this house and for everybody who walks inside, I want that to be us. And Vanguard, I pray that over you, that you're able to paint your walls with beacon yellow, that you're able to be a place of pure brokenness that is created into a beautiful picture in a beautiful house. And that's my story.